The air in the bustling airport terminal was thick with the hum of hurried footsteps, the metallic clatter of rolling suitcases, and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights overhead. It was a late summer evening, the kind where the sky outside the glass walls burned a deep amber, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Travelers moved in a restless tide, their faces a mosaic of exhaustion, anticipation, and quiet resignation. Amid the chaos, a German shepherd named Coda stood alert beside his handler, Officer Elena Marquez. His ears twitched, catching every sound, while his amber eyes scanned the crowd with an intensity that seemed almost human. Coda was no ordinary dog. Trained in the elite K-9 unit of the Port Authority, he had a reputation for precision, his nose a near-mythical instrument capable of detecting traces of danger no machine could match. Elena, a wiry woman in her early 30s with sharp features and a no-nonsense braid, trusted Coda implicitly. They'd been partners for 3 years, through countless shifts at JFK International, sniffing out everything from narcotics to explosives. Tonight, though, something felt different. Elena couldn't place it, but there was a tension in the air, a subtle shift in Coda's posture that made her pulse quicken. They were stationed near the international arrivals gate, where passengers poured in from a red-eye flight out of Eastern Europe. The crowd was a blur of faces, businessmen in rumpled suits, families clutching overstuffed bags, a young woman with a violin case slung over her shoulder. Coda's tail flicked as he paced in a tight circle, his nose low to the ground. Elena's hand rested lightly on his leash, her eyes darting between the dog and the sea of travelers. "Easy boy," she murmured, though her own nerves were fraying. Coda rarely reacted this strongly unless something was wrong. Then it happened. A man in a gray overcoat, his face half hidden by a wool scarf despite the late summer heat, wheeled a black hardshell suitcase through the gate. He moved with purpose, his steps quick but not frantic, blending seamlessly into the crowd. Coda froze, his body taut as a bowstring. His nose twitched, and a low growl rumbled in his throat. Before Elena could react, Coda lunged forward, his powerful frame leaping onto the suitcase with such force that the man stumbled backward, his scarf slipping to reveal a pale, angular face. "Sir, step back," Elena barked, her voice cutting through the terminal's din. She tightened her grip on Coda's leash, but the dog was relentless, his paws scrabbling against the suitcase's smooth surface, his barks sharp and insistent. A murmur rippled through the crowd as travelers stopped to stare. The man in the overcoat raised his hands, his expression a mix of confusion and indignation. "What is this? I've done nothing wrong," he protested, his accent thick but unplaceable. Elena's training kicked in. She signaled for backup with a quick gesture, her eyes never leaving the man. 2 other officers, burly men in Navy uniforms, appeared within seconds, their radios crackling. "Coda down," Elena commanded, and the dog reluctantly obeyed, though his eyes remained locked on the suitcase. The man's protests grew louder, drawing more attention, but Elena's focus was on Coda. He wasn't reacting to drugs or explosives. His signals for those were distinct, a precise sit or a paw tap. This was something else, something she hadn't seen before. "Sir, we need to inspect your luggage," Elena said, her tone firm but calm. The man hesitated, his fingers twitching at his sides. For a moment, it seemed he might bolt, but the presence of the other officers kept him rooted. "This is absurd," he muttered, but he stepped aside as Elena knelt beside the suitcase. Coda's growls softened, but his body remained tense, his nose inches from the case. Elena's gloved hands moved methodically, unzipping the suitcase with deliberate care. The crowd pressed closer, their curiosity a palpable weight. Inside, the suitcase was neatly packed, folded clothes, A pair of polished shoes, a leather toiletry bag. Nothing seemed out of place, but Koda's reaction told her there was more. She ran her fingers along the inner lining, feeling for anything unusual. Her heart thudded as she found it. A faint seam, barely noticeable, stitched into the suitcase's base. "Officer Marquez, what we got?" One of the backup officers, a grizzled veteran named Harris, asked as he leaned over her shoulder. Elena didn't answer. Her knife sliced through the stitching, revealing a hidden compartment. The crowd gasped as she peeled back the fabric. Inside was a small, padded bundle wrapped in dark cloth. Koda whined, his nose nudging closer. Elena's hands trembled slightly as she unwrapped the bundle, her breath catching in her throat. Nestled within was a tiny, intricate device, no larger than a deck of cards. It was unlike anything she'd seen. Sleek, metallic, with faint blue lights pulsing along its edges. Wires coiled like veins, leading to a small glass vial filled with a shimmering, silver liquid. The sight sent a chill down her spine. This wasn't drugs or explosives. This was something far stranger, something that made her skin prickle with unease. "What the hell is that?" Harris whispered, his voice barely audible. The man in the overcoat went pale, his protests dying in his throat. Elena's mind raced. She'd heard rumors of experimental tech, black market prototypes smuggled through international hubs, but nothing like this. The device looked alive, its lights pulsing in time with some unseen rhythm. Koda whined again, his eyes fixed on the vial. Before Elena could process further, the man lunged forward, his hand darting toward the device. "Don't touch it!" he shouted, his voice raw with desperation. Harris grabbed him, pinning his arms as he struggled. The crowd erupted into murmurs, phones raised to capture the scene. Elena's radio crackled with urgent voices, but she barely heard them. Her focus was on the device, its eerie glow reflecting in her eyes. She reached for it, her gloved fingers hovering over the vial. Koda barked sharply, startling her. "What is it, boy?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The dog's eyes met hers, and for a moment, she swore she saw fear in them. Not the trained alertness of a canine, but something deeper, almost human. Whatever was in that suitcase, it wasn't just dangerous, it was wrong. Elena sealed the suitcase and stood, her mind a storm of questions. The man was cuffed now, his face a mask of defeat as he was led away. The crowd dispersed, but the weight of their stares lingered. Elena knelt beside Koda, stroking his fur. "Good boy," she said softly, though her voice shook. She didn't know what they'd uncovered, but she knew one thing. This was only the beginning. As the terminal's chaos resumed, Elena's thoughts drifted to the device. Its strange beauty haunted her, a puzzle she couldn't yet solve. She didn't know it then, but that small, pulsing machine would unravel secrets far beyond the airport. Secrets that would test her courage, her loyalty, and her understanding of the world itself. The fluorescent lights of the Port Authority's security office buzzed like trapped insects, casting a sterile glow over the room. Elena Marquez sat at a metal table, the mysterious device from the suitcase placed carefully before her, sealed in an evidence bag. Its faint blue pulses seemed to mock the room's harsh brightness, a heartbeat from another world. Koda lay at her feet, his head resting on his paws, but his eyes never left the device, wary and unblinking. Across from Elena, the man in the gray overcoat, now identified as Viktor Kuznetsov, a Ukrainian national with no prior record, sat handcuffed, his jaw tight, his gaze fixed on the floor. The air was heavy with unspoken questions, the kind that made Elena's skin crawl. Captain Ramirez, a stocky man with a graying mustache and a voice like gravel, leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Talk, Kuznetsov, he said, his tone clipped. What is it? And why's it in your suitcase? Victor's lips twitched, but he said nothing. Elena's fingers drummed lightly on the table, her mind replaying the moment Koda leaped onto the suitcase. She'd seen him detect threats before, but this was different. His reaction wasn't just instinct, it was as if he knew something. Elena, Ramirez said, turning to her. What's your take? Koda's never wrong, but this thing. He gestured at the device, his brow furrowing. It's not explosives, not drugs. Tech says it's not radioactive, but they're stumped. Never seen anything like it. Elena's eyes flicked to the device. The vial of silver liquid shimmered, catching the light in a way that seemed to bend it, like a prism underwater. Koda didn't signal for contraband, she said slowly. He was protective, like he was guarding it. Or us. She hesitated, knowing how it sounded, but Ramirez didn't scoff. He'd seen Koda's instincts save lives before. Victor shifted in his chair, his cuffs clinking. You don't understand, he muttered, his voice low, almost a growl. You can't open it. You mustn't. His eyes met Elena's for the first time, and she saw something raw in them. Fear? Yes, but also a strange, desperate resolve. It's not what you think. Then tell us what it is, Elena pressed, leaning forward. Koda's ears perked up, a soft whine escaping him. Victor's gaze dropped again, his silence a wall. Ramirez sighed, rubbing his temples, and signaled for Elena to step outside. She patted Koda's head, whispering, "Stay," before following her captain into the hall. The corridor was quieter, the hum of the terminal distant. Ramirez's face was grim. Homeland Security's taking over, he said. They're sending someone from D.C. Whatever this is, it's above our pay grade. Elena's stomach twisted. She dealt with feds before, their suits and clip tones always carrying an air of secrecy. But this felt bigger, stranger. They want the device and Kuznetsov by morning, Ramirez added. And they're asking about Koda. Koda? Elena's voice sharpened. Why? Ramirez shrugged, but his eyes were uneasy. They didn't say, just asked about his training, his behavior. Said they might need to observe him. Elena's fists clenched. Koda wasn't just a tool, he was her partner, her family. The thought of him being poked and prodded by faceless agents made her blood boil. Back in the office, Elena's unease grew. Victor was staring at the device now, his lips moving silently, as if praying. Koda had risen to his feet, his hackles raised, a low growl rumbling. Easy, boy, Elena murmured, but her own heart was racing. She noticed something new. The device's pulses were faster now, almost frantic, and the silver liquid seemed to swirl, as if alive. She blinked, wondering if it was a trick of the light, but Koda's growls grew louder, more insistent. Then it happened. A faint hum filled the room, barely audible at first, like the buzz of a distant insect. The device's lights flared, casting jagged shadows on the walls. Victor surged to his feet, his chair scraping. "Get back!" he shouted, his voice raw with panic. "It's waking!" Before Elena could react, Koda lunged, knocking the evidence bag to the floor. The device hit the ground with a dull thud, and the hum became a piercing whine. Ramirez drew his sidearm, shouting for backup, but Elena's focus was on Koda. The dog stood over the device, his body rigid, his teeth bared. The vial's liquid was moving now, visibly churning, and the blue lights pulsed in a rhythm that matched Elena's own heartbeat. She dropped to her knees beside Koda, her hands shaking as she reached for the device. "Don't!" Victor yelled, straining against his cuffs. "You don't know what you're doing." Elena's fingers brushed the device, and a shock ran through her. Not pain, but a strange electric warmth, like touching a live wire. Images flooded her mind. A sterile lab, men in white coats, a child's face twisted in fear, and a sound like a heartbeat, vast and ancient. She gasped, pulling her hand back, her vision swimming. Coda whined, nudging her shoulder, grounding her. What the hell was that? Ramirez demanded, his gun still trained on Victor. The man's face was ashen, his eyes wide with something like grief. It's not a weapon, he whispered. It's her. Elena's blood ran cold. Her? The word hung in the air, heavy with impossibility. Before she could press him, the door burst open, and 3 agents in dark suits stormed in, their faces unreadable. The lead agent, a woman with sharp cheekbones and cold gray eyes, didn't bother with introductions. "We'll take it from here," she said, her tone final.
Elena stod și el din coda instinctivelai.
"Not until we know what this is," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos in her mind. The agent's eyes narrowed, but she didn't argue. Instead, she gestured to her team, who moved to secure the device and Victor. As they lifted the evidence bag, the hum stopped abruptly, the lights dimming. Victor's shoulders slumped, tears streaking his face. "You don't understand," he whispered again, his voice breaking. "She's alive." The agents escorted Victor out, the device cradled like a relic. Elena's heart pounded as she watched them go, Coda pressing against her leg. The room felt emptier, colder, but the images from that brief touch lingered. A child, a lab, a heartbeat that wasn't human. Ramirez placed a hand on her shoulder. "Go home, Elena," he said softly. "You and Coda did good. Let the feds handle the rest." But Elena couldn't let it go. That night, in her small Brooklyn apartment, she sat with Coda curled beside her, his warmth a quiet anchor. She scoured her laptop, digging into encrypted forums and old case files, searching for anything about experimental tech or smuggled devices. A single lead emerged. A defunct research facility in Ukraine, shut down after rumors of unethical experiments. The name sent a chill through her Project Elysium. As dawn broke, painting her windows gold, Elena made a decision. She wouldn't let this go. Coda's instincts, that device, Victor's tears. They were pieces of a puzzle she had to solve. She scratched Coda's ears, her resolve hardening. "We're not done, boy," she whispered. Somewhere out there was a truth that could change everything, and she and Coda would find it, no matter the cost.